John Biggs from Resilience, and today I'm talking to Javier Castellar from Aechelon. They have an amazing new project, which I need you to describe, Javier, to us. It's basically a clone of the Earth.
Yeah, it's a live synthetic reality of the Earth. So it's a twin, a digital twin of the Earth, but unlike prior attempts to do that, it's not static. So it's been updated kind of in real time. Of course, over the next few years is slower updates, but there are new space assets that we have been using on the military side that are commercial now that allow us to literally planetary scale updates at the scale, like everything.
So it's...
And that sounds science fiction, but it's not.
So there are a number of partners. The Niantic, there's Distance. What was the other ones? Dark Sky,
Eisai and Black Sky. Yeah.
Eisai and Black Sky. Now, all those companies are doing something different. Distance, for example, is doing a VR systems for viewing this information. Eisai, Black Sky are basically doing almost instantaneous updates of the data from satellites' images. Right. So what we're talking about here is if I wanted to, I could walk. You're somewhere else in the States. I could go to your house and potentially see your car in the driveway, something like that. Is that a thing?
Eventually will be that. Eventually, the first use cases, we are starting slow. Mm-hmm. We're starting with, in this case, with the U.S. Coast Guard, to be able to have very current 3D reconstruction of the landing zones before a rescue. So the idea behind is in the final incarnation, it's going to start evaluation probably in the next month or so on the actual simulators first. But the idea is there is enough technology now together with Niantic Spatial and other partners to capture very quickly the surroundings of the rescue area, even with an iPhone, and then immediately send that data, process it with AI, and force it into the system that the pilots use to plan the mission that quickly. But some of the technologies, especially from a space-based radar, and it's not just radar like a blip, it's radar as space imaging of radar, is able to see through clouds, through smoke, through canopy. So it's able to rebuild from space pretty much any location on the world very quickly, and you can exploit that data and reconstruct the environment really quickly. Now, for the case of your house with your car parked there, yes, if we focus on your area, we can see your car. We can identify your car. We can put it in 3D. But the initial purpose is more, I would say, on the emergency services. Of course, the military side, which we don't hide about. We are a defense company.
Sure.
We have been doing that for years, for decades, actually. So this is not new. This technology exists. It's just that the idea now is to, because it has become commercial, these satellites are commercial. Eisai, for example, has launched over 54 satellites. You can image any place on the Earth, get an incredible view, which is unique. In the Palisades fire, we could see through the smoke, every house status in real time. Wow. Every single house. So that's the type of flow that probably we will initially see, probably more emergency services, Coast Guard, CAL FIRE, that type of thing. But definitely is the entire system or ecosystem that combines the data, shows it in augmented reality through different means. Distance could be one, is capable of definitely a planetary scale, because we are already doing planetary scale for defense applications. The difference in this case is that the flow is very real time. It's not static. And it sounds hard to believe because the scale, but it does exist. It's just that now it's finally not only for the military. There is a use for defense. There's a defense use. There will always be a defense use. But definitely there are applications that I don't think that people is aware of those capabilities for a space-based radar. That's, I would say, space-based radar exploitation. And then, of course, Niantic Spatial is capable of doing 3D reconstructions from video. And one aspect which is very important is they know where they are on the Earth without GPS. So by just looking to a picture, you are able to locate yourself a centimeter level where you are on the Earth. And what we are doing now is to master it in all this data because it's coming from Niantic. Again, the Niantic captures are typically captures for the Coast Guard, so they are not the normal captures, they are special captures. But the final intent is to create an ecosystem that can make this data flow beneficial for saving lives, right? We have this feeling for all these years that when there's an emergency, there is not enough flow of information back and forth. And it needs to be in a comprehensible form. It has to be something that people can understand through their phone or through the glasses, right? It has to be that, or on the car, right, through the glass. Like in the case of Distance, they can convert any windshield in a live field display. You can see in 3D. The initial applications are obviously military, but those are here. That technology exists. It's not a future thing. And I think that that's the main development is some of these things were hidden for many years, in our case for 27 years. In fact, our company was founded on 9/11/98.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of sad for the date, but it was before 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
So today is 27 years when we started. And we always had that vision that can we make, even before Google Earth, before the Google Earth path, because we were kind of connected to them for many years, that aspect, we always thought that it can be used for mission rehearsal, and that's what we did. In fact, most of the missions flown by the US are flown with us. But now there's this extra step. It's like, why we cannot push this technology for a firefighter, Coast Guard. We started with the Coast Guard. I think that everybody loves the Coast Guard. Nobody complains about the Coast Guard. They save, they fly 14,000 missions a year in our simulators for real missions, 4,000 lives. If this saves another 1,000 lives, it's not a business. It's a duty to do. But definitely, I think this is here. This is going to flow through every phone eventually. We're not talking about many years from now. We are talking about a couple of years maximum. First use cases, next few months. In fact, they will be announced in little steps.
So in the specific Coast Guard situation, or I mean, let's say for, I don't know, a firefighter, right? I would be able to see through a building, to see the buildings behind that building, see if they're on fire. I'd be able to see through a hill to see if there's if I bring my car over, am I going to fall into a hole or something like that?
You can even see, for example, something that's crazy. So we developed with some partners, we can compute computer fluid dynamics in real time. Mm-hmm. So something that used to be a supercomputer in computing. No, we can compute the specific aeroturbulence, downdrafts and updrafts over hills and trees. Knowing the wind direction, we know if it's a downdraft or an updraft. That for a fighter, for planning where to send the firefighters, in which side of the hill, that's going to not only save lives, it's going to give such a situational awareness that is almost a multiplying force. It's like in the military side. In the military side, you know where to send the troops, so to speak. You win the war because you can concentrate your efforts. On firefighting, it's the same thing. It's a war. Air assets, Intel. In California, you can see Intel assets flying around all the time. But this is different because now we can penetrate the smoke. You can give vehicles the ability to see through smoke, to see through hills, right? But also give them the computation that they need in a visual form, right? Humans can only consume AI data if you provide it in natural form, which is 3D, through view. But it has to be natural. It cannot be just a map. It has to be something that you see in your eyes. And that immediateness avoid mistakes. And that's why the partners, you notice the partners are diverse, right? So you have Niantic for some of the AI, 3D reconstruction, large geographical models, right? Similar to large language models, but on steroids for geospatial. Mm-hmm. Then you have these special, very high frequency refresh satellites, radar and optical. But then you have these special display vendors that do live field displays, no glasses. You can literally look and it's focus and distance for the entire windshield. That type of thing, as it gets, not developed because we are already on it, in the middle of it, is that it's very complementary. All these pieces of technology were already in development or existing. It's just that we realized that they existed on the other side, right? We have this connection of we're going to develop this 3D reconstructing thing, and then we discovered that Niantic Spatial, our old friends from the early days in Silicon Graphics, eventually they did Google Earth and things like that. It's like, oh, you are doing this, then we don't need to, we collaborate. And then they discovered that we were doing space-based radar that they needed for some other projects. Same thing with distance, same thing with black sky. So that's what is suddenly accelerating from nothing that people didn't know to suddenly, we are announcing this. With a specific projects. It's not like some crazy thing. We are established companies, right? We are not a startup anymore. So yeah, it's an interesting range subject. I think it's going to be very, very obvious, right? This is not some kind of marketing speak.
This
is real.
Yeah, what is this kind of partnership called? Would it even be would it be a spinoff from Aechelon, or is it part of Aechelon?
It's purely that we are putting together products. In our case, the product that connects or what we call Orbion, the Orbion ecosystem, is we call it Project Orbion. That's the actual name. What we do is we call it the sky beam. So there's a beam from the sky that brings data, and it fuse all together. It fuse Niantic, etc. So it's actually a partnership in which each company have their own business, right? We are independent businesses. We are in the defense business, clearly. Defense, aerospace, I would say. And now probably emergency services. But the beauty of this is a B2B. We don't have to solve the final mile of the users. Niantic knows how to do that. We don't have to launch a satellite. They already exist. We don't have to create a display. So it's a very non-conflict of interest ecosystem with actual projects. So we are giving each other contracts. Like it's very interesting dynamic, and it's within mostly Silicon Valley, but it's covering people from Finland, right? So we're using Finnish satellites, which is kind of unusual, but it's really a very direct implementation, right? I use this word, which is some people tell me not to use it. I was military grade for the greater good. That's exactly what it is. It's reusing things that came from defense that are legally usable now because they're actually commercial for things that there is no way that, let's say, CAL FIRE or the Coast Guard itself could fund this, right? It has to be a private or a commercial endeavor. And instead of taking 10 years, which is what normally we have taken, it's going to take sometimes months. I mean, for some applications, months. Others will take 1 year, 2 years. But right now, there are already over 50 satellites in orbit capturing things. I have images of the Palisades fires. I can see every house if it's up or down, which is crazy.
Are there any privacy concerns here?
Yes, that's a very good question. This thing is able to process video too. Right? So we can process live video and reproduce it in 3D for many, many channels. So you can rebuild stuff really quickly. This is the irony, and this is crazy. Because we are coming from the defense market has security concerns, but they are the opposite. They are not for privacy. They are for protecting classified information. So you have unclassified level or sensitive, unclassified, secret, top secret, special access programs. That level. It's like a pyramid like this, right? What we call the solution to the privacy problem is a systemic protection, not an afterthought. So we reverse the pyramid. So what you call top secret on the defense side, we call it private. What is, let's say, commercial use or middle use or neighborhood use is the next level. So it's a multi-level security, but it's a multi-level privacy. Of course, we are not able to create the rules to breach the levels, but it's natural and already exists for Fourth Amendment rights, right? Like, let me put an example. The police cannot enter your house without a search warrant, but they can enter your house in an emergency. Someone is screaming. If there is a fire, we all protect our addresses. I will not tell people where I live. I will be happy that my address is known for the firefighters fighting the fire nearby my house. The good news is that the technology allows to move petabytes of data, that every pixel and every polygon knows which level of privacy or which level of security it has. Okay. Because we already do that, right? So when you have a military mission, you don't tell everybody what your satellite is or what your sensor is. The pilots know what they need to know. They don't know more, right? This is the same thing. You can provide on the fly what is appropriate. And there are already laws or regulations that could be developed that will allow to do this in real time. Having it systemic on the technical side is very important upfront because it's always an afterthought. And what this allows is to make what they call a pre-adjudication. So it's pre-adjudicated privacy, in which you define the rules, when to breach it, when we don't. And it's clear when. And that will avoid mistakes or abuse, right? Because if it's clear when a privacy level can be breached, an emergency, a fire, if the neighborhood house is on fire next to me, I want my address to be known that is next to it, right? I mean, that's a simplification, but that's definitely possible in real time. Someone has to decide when it's an emergency, they have to declare an emergency. So maybe in emergencies, they can remove the layers temporarily. And you can bound the area of the emergency. You can decide that this area, based on this information from satellite, we know that the fire is here. This area, let's use all the data we have to call people, know people where it is. That's the beauty of this, which is almost an accidental discovery, right? Because this could have been a very complex problem, but it's already solved. We have been living with that for 30 years,
sure.
Right? Managing with multi-level security. So I find it ironic, something that is designed for other purpose can be used to save lives with privacy, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, that was an interesting dialogue that we have. This was in the back of our minds on all these conversations over the last year when we were discussing this project, right? It's how we deal with this. Now, it's beyond us because this is B2B. When it goes from B to business to consumer, then of course that's where they have to be more careful. But we are already careful even on the other side for security concerns, right? So I would say that that's the right description of how to address that.
So the Orbion product is going to be more for emergency services, etc. But all the technology is military.
I would say that initially on the first wave, yes, for sure, it's going to be obviously defense, right? We already have defense and already kind of exists, but it's expanding now to cross-use into dual use. The first project is the Coast Guard. Use Coast Guard, the Advanced Air Training Center will start using this. It will start evaluate how good it can get. But then it's funny, people don't know the Coast Guard is a very technically leading service. Mm-hmm. They are not afraid of getting commercial things to see if they work, which other services on DoD are a little bit different. They're more conservative. That's great. But then obviously the expansion is once that we get there, probably every helicopter-related service, civilian rescues in the mountains, etc. We do, for example, all the rescue helicopters in Switzerland, right? For example, for Riga. Okay. So when you go lost in Switzerland, that helicopter the pilot has been trained in a simulator in Zurich, right? Well, why not expanding it for that? So there's no problem using this for that purpose. I think that's the first wave. That's the low-hanging fruit, very easy. Nobody complains about it. But immediately the next one, obviously CAL FIRE, that will be a perfect example. But I think that this will be, it's just the beginning. This is clearly going to the consumers. There's no question.
And there's the ability to use this to train AI as well, right?
In terms yes, it's both. It's a loop. It's a complete loop. So the interesting part, because it's no longer static, what really triggered part of this was, so we spend all our lives doing the more exquisite, expensive video game. That's the way of saying it. $40 million simulator. We have examples last year we saw in public, like you will have a dome that has 7 projectors of 8K, 240 frames per second. Crazy. But then we realized all the channels, we develop sensors, so we can simulate sensors, any sensor, infrared, night vision goggles, radar, etc. Radar, that's why it gets important. Then we realized, hold on, we are training humans, we can train machines. We can make the metrics of a drone. We can remove everything from a drone and inject the sensors that he has and make that drone believe that it's flying in the real world. Because we already developed the real world for the pilots. Now we can reuse that same world that has sensors to stimulate autonomous systems. And those autonomous systems, the deficit in the market was that most of the startups trying to go into defense doing this, the problem that they have is they don't have the sensors. I mean, it's very hard to do a proper infrared simulator. That's why we started the company, doing sensor simulation for mission rehearsal.
Sure.
We had basically the equivalent of the Google Earth with sensors for decades. So now it's repurposed for this because now every civilian asset has sensors. I mean, Coast Guard use infrared, search and rescue people here in California use night vision goggles, so it's very common. But now we can train autonomous systems. And that's the key. We can train it and simulate all the conditions. Snow, no snow, wind, smoke, etc. So because you don't want to have an hallucination on an autonomous system that is flying to rescue you. So the only way to do is to fly millions of hours on the ground. And you can not only train the system, you can evaluate the system. If you have a swarm of drones flying, you can train all those in scenarios that you will never do in real life. It will be impossible. And that's the beauty of this, was the realization that this is a loop. It's live data. The better is your database, geospatial database, the better is your training. And because the systems collect data too, you can refine your position. So these synthetic reality systems that we have become a feedback loop of data. The more you insert, the more precise it is. The more precise it is, the better they fly because they recognize where they are.
So you could train the drone to fly in real conditions virtually. You could train the car. You could train almost anything. Interesting.
You made veterans, not just drones. It could be an autonomous camera that the people use.
Sure.
So there are many uses. But the beauty of this is also can create a database because the drone becomes a source of the data to create 3D reconstruction. And also you're not accessing the data directly. You're accessing the language model that addresses the data. So you can even separate the data that people is using from the actual use. You just access the model to interrogate, is this the corner of the building or not? And a good example from Brian McClendon the other day was when you come out on a bus station or on a subway station, phones are terrible with the GPS in the cities. Anybody has experienced that. Is that way or is that way? This allows you to literally know where you are, centimeter level in orientation. The beauty of this is because now it's real time. True, right now there are only maybe 50 radar satellites doing this, but they're launching 20 a year. In 2 years, you are going to have pretty much energy on the ground everywhere. You are able to acquire data very quickly. And if there is a traffic jam in a place that needs an immediate rescue to remove the blockade that prevents people to escape a fire, I'm just going back to fire. Sure. I live in the forest, so clearly for me it's important. That will never happen before. It will be a radio call, or a 911 call. No, this will be obvious for the emergency centers seeing this. Then this connects very well with connectivity. So now you have, I just bought in the Apple Store 2 more Apple Watch Ultra 3 because now they have satellite connectivity. Now you have Starlink anywhere, right? You get that bandwidth. You can send the data up to rebuild the world continuously. So the world is no longer static, it's dynamic, and you can train the AI. Some people say, well, is this Skynet, right? It's like, no, this is the John Connor Brigade, right? because we are creating the tools that allow you to visualize what the AI is doing so you can control it, right? If you drive a Tesla or a Rivian, you will see in the screen how the autonomous system is interpreting the world, right? That's how you control it. At this scale, you need the visualization tools so that the people who control the autonomous systems is able to understand what the hell AI is doing. Because once that you go from one drone to 100 drones doing a sweep in a forest looking for somebody, it has to be humanly consumable. It cannot be just a map, right? It has to be intuitive. And I think that's where it meets this augmented reality mix, which we have done for many years. We have done projects doing the most expensive head-mounted displays you can imagine, eye limiting. We have worked with Vario, for example, for a long time, developing head-mounted displays that are eye limiting, right, for pilots. So this is very good because now you can finally have glasses, seeing through your glasses. As soon as you have a VPS, a visual positioning system, but that has to be matched with a synthetic reality that you overlay, then you get superhuman powers. You can see through the mountain, you can see what you need. Now, initially, again, this is mostly it's an ecosystem, but it's an ecosystem that the plan is to make it open. Right? And I think that the partners that we are engaging are heavy hitters, right? You see Brian McLennan, well, he did pretty much with his team in the past, Google Earth, right? I mean, it was the keyhole people developing it. You see Pekka Laurila from ISI. He pretty much invented those satellites and is launching 50 satellites. I mean, he has 50 satellites anywhere in the world. I have seen incredible things on the military side, right? Seeing what they do. Making that available for initially emergency services, having a conduit to macerate data that way is not just the emergency services side, but it's going to make AI safer on autonomous systems for sure. Because right now everybody's independent, right? Everybody thinks that they can make a drone that can send you a rescue package to some place. That's not accurate. You need a scalable system that can go thousands of devices, millions of devices, right? But that's the thing that is kind of, I have this saying like, the future is here, it's just not widely distributed.
Yep.
That's, I can tell you, based on our experience, that's exactly what it is. Because our blood for decades was boiling that we couldn't explain this, right? Because it was all defense-oriented. And we are not apologetic. We are defense-oriented, don't get me wrong. But this is a great return of investment in which industry do this fixed firm price on their own resources. That will benefit defense too. But I can tell you the first thing is we have to get to the 21st century on emergency services. You cannot have flooding in which people don't get a warning on time, okay? We could see the flooding plains of Texas in real time through the clouds. That has to be available to the public. And ISI alone, no matter how willing they are, and they're a nice, great company, they will post them up on the web. But what you need is something that a normal civilian, so to speak, can see through where is the problem coming, right? And yeah, initially, of course, you have less satellites. Maybe the update is every 20 minutes. But hell, every 20 minutes beats the hell of hours, right? And those minutes are going to go down to kind of real time. For some things, for some applications, we already have full real time. We can project that drone in real time.
This whole reminds me of the Borges story when the cartographer created the perfect map of the province, which was the exact size of the province, right? It's almost like it's a one-to-one map.
This is a one-to-one. So you need a foundational model of correlation that no matter what your classification, let's say in this case privacy is, everything is put in the same place on the world, one-to-one centimeter level. But the math already exists. This has been solved, and now there are enough assets in space and on the air on drones to be able to exploit this. And knowing where to sell help or where to sell the warning, it has to be real time. It cannot be this alert generic. No, I need to know from my perspective as a consumer, I want to look in this direction and know where the fire is coming, right? I mean, I live in fire country, and I know that, but I can tell you, the level at which CAL FIRE manages this is unbelievable. They will put a plane on top of your house in 20 minutes, which is crazy. But what is missing is this feedback loop, in which in emergency moments, you can use all the resources available technology-wise. Nobody has any problem to share your data in an emergency, right? As soon as it's systemic, that technology is not that it's future. It's right here. It is definitely right here. And I think that the main realization was like, wow, it was actually a few months ago. It was literally the moment that I found the Niantic Spatial and we started talking, and we realized that the thing that we're planning to develop in the next 3 years already existed, and things that they needed from us already existed. ISI is doing this, Black Sky is doing that, and we could see the portapad is in Burning Man changing, which is kind of funny. But instead of being funny a demo, this is not a demo. So no, we started slowly. We are very pragmatic on this. But this is good for business, it's good for the government, right? They don't have to invest on this. They can take the fruits from the industry. It's no cost plus. If it's a product that they like, it goes got to evaluate. If they like it, they might buy it, right? So there is no conflict. And I think that's the new way of doing things. It's not political. Nobody complains about using technology for the proper good of the people. And yeah, if the technology already exists and it's clear to be used, I don't think it's a problem. Right? For us, it's less of a business. It's almost a duty to do it. We have been always wondering about this, right? All these years, it's like people knew. It has been bothering us, I can tell you. Nacho and I...
And you pulled it off.
Well, it was hard. I mean, this is the good news. It's what they call, this is going to be funny, it's the power of beer.
Okay.
So, because most of the people that we know that did Google Earth, right, eventually become Niantic and Niantic Spatial, we came from the same group, right? So we keep tabs and we could text each other. And there was one day in which we just realized this. And then when they learned what we knew on the military side, we are using this commercial product from this Finnish company using satellites this way. That would trigger a cascading effect, right? And I think there are going to be more companies joining. It's good for their business. It's a return of investment on existing assets. So that's the beauty. The financial incentive is non-conflicting with the good of the usage, right? It's reusing what they have already. It's not that they need to do some crazy thing. Now, it's an integration. It's very complex. But the good news is that these are not companies that are just throwing paperware. They have high precision computations that are used every day, right? So it's just a repurpose, a reintegration. The plan is to do all open standards, right? So that you don't get hooked in a specific company. And that's what we are charging. We are going full steam ahead and we have the resources. And yeah, we get more resources better, but we have a valid business ourselves, right? It's not like, it's different when you start a company and just can do one thing. In our case, we already have this. The question now is spend the effort over the next months and years to be sure that everybody plays nice. And some of the groups, there are some groups in the government that are actually very nice to work with, very modern. Yeah, once that you start seeing that this works and it can be demonstrated, I mean, we are, in fact, in the next few months, I mean, this is not theoretical. So it's going to be interesting. It's a little bit strange for us, right? Because we come from the hidden world.
To so expand out.
I mean, we are hiding. That's a strange thing behind me. But we have long stories. But this one, I think, is a good... it's good for business, right? For us, sure. But it is almost a duty, right? Someone had to do this push. And the surprise was how all the pieces came together really quickly for the press conference. And we all mean it. This is not some kind of random noise in the background. No. This is happening. I mean, these are real businesses going behind this, really strong, with ethics behind. I mean, we are all nice people. Now, don't trust us. Like, this is all step by step. But I think it's a good thing. It's good for the government. I mean, it's going to empower them in many ways, but empower them in the right way, right? Which is when you need something, it's kind of AI readiness, right? It's when you need it, right? At the time of need, it has to be at the time of need at the edge, right? When you interface with the problem, that's when you need the data. And it has to be 3D, it has to be viewable. And sure, we have been doing pictures. Okay, this picture is from 90. Sorry, I'm previously here.
Yeah.
So this is very cool. This picture is 1990, Palo Alto. That was me when I was younger. We're talking about this.
And now it's finally here.
That's a long time ago. Those were head-mounted displays, the early ones, the BPL ones, before any VR revolution. This is from the 90s. But now it's like finally we have enough resolution. It's like, you remember when Keyhole started, that they had the first demos before Google acquired them? But they have very limited thing, a couple of images. I mean, it was innovative, right? And said, oh, it's impossible. You will never have the entire Earth at high resolution. You know how funny it sounds now? It created its own industry. So this one, the beauty of this, the industries already exist. So it's actually closer to reality than what happened on Google or Keyhole and Google at the beginning. That's the funny part. It's not that far away. Now, it takes time. This is not magic, right? But the ground is solid. I mean, these are in use in life-saving missions every day, right? So we know as a fact that it works, right? Now the question is to do it right, be sure that there is no sensitive information being leaked or anything, which is okay. We are fully adjudicated for that. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's one of those things that is good for business, good for people. But like, well, that's what we do, right? I know it sounds strange from my perspective, but we feel pretty passionate. In fact, every founder of these companies feels very passionate. And some of these people has done many incredible things, right? You see Brian McClinton or people like that. And no, they were all like, yeah, Pekka flew all the way from Helsinki just to be on that press conference. Yep. That was hardcore. I had to drive him back to the home. So this excitement, and It's good for business. We all have businesses that work fine. So why not, right? I mean, we feel that we owe to our communities, right? And yeah, of course, we have our biases. My bias is fire because I live in fire country. But hell, flooding, etc. It's just, the information is there. There's the good willingness. And once that the government entities see the value of this, of course, they should tap into this. It's not some crazy thing. I mean, it's pretty obvious to us, at least. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. It's busy. I mean, it's a little weird for us to have all these interviews. We never had interviews. Right?
Never had interviews. You were well. I'll hopefully this is one of your. Hopefully you're getting some practice now that you actually get to speak to some folks.
I don't want practice.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, the best thing is honesty on these things. We are engineers at heart, right? Mm-hmm. Sure, we have businesses. We have done this many years, but I think that is fine. I mean, I think people can see through passion on these things. And it's very good. I mean, Nacho is leading the charge on this. Mm-hmm. Brian McClendon is leading the charge on the Niantic side. ISI is the same. In fact, we were just literally this morning at 4 a.m., we were already, we are going to do this. We have this new mode on the radar. So it's kind of crazy. And it's very funny when you try it against your area and you see your personal things, right? Is for us, we can test the ground truth very quickly because we are focusing on our own areas to see what is going on, right? But yeah, and we will see. I mean, of course, hey, the Coast Guard doesn't like what they see, then they will tell. I can tell you, pilots are hardcore, okay? If something doesn't work, they will tell you. We spend all our lives in safety, safety for our pilots, for military missions. So we have this really deep connection with pilots. Pilots will tell you the truth because they will never risk safety, right? So it's a perfect standard. It's not like my website works or my app is working. No. This is like either works or it doesn't.
You survive. Right?
Fascinating. So that's the good news. They're always honest because they have to be. And that's the counterpart with business interests. Nothing wrong with businesses. There's nothing wrong with working with the military. But now this creates, this is similar. The military started kind of the GPS, right? What everybody used today. Nobody complains about that. So this is kind of similar. It's just that it's not funded by the government. It's just that it's somehow the realization that there are certain things that we can apply for certain emergencies. But there are more than I'm sure there will be businesses that will create other use cases that we cannot even dream today, right? And that will be kind of more fun or simpler. But yeah, that's the idea. Wonderful. I think the time of static maps is over, real time. And we see some form, you see traffic, real-time traffic in your car. Mm-hmm. You can see that. But this is a different scale. This is different level. ISI just announced, I think they got so excited from yesterday, they just announced this morning, 15-centimeter radar imaging from space.
Well, Javier, let me send folks over to Aechelon Technology so they can check it out. And when is there a demo that folks can look at? Does it exist yet?
No. So we have a video out.
Some videos, right?
So there's a video on our website. You go, again, we are not a consumer company.
Sure, of course.
We work with governments and businesses, right? But they can see some stuff. So if you go to Aechelon.com, it's also Aechelon AI, mm-hmm. of course, /solutions/project Orbion.
Okay.
Then you have an image. There's a video. There's a little video there. And you can see some of the stuff that we have today. Some of the images there are actually from simulators. So they're actually the real thing. I think what we may do is every year, we will be press releases in progress as we go on that page. So that page is going to grow. In fact, we already have another press release for the Coast Guard, but I just didn't have time to post it. Mm-hmm. But you will see some announcements, some government, some things. Probably every quarter we may update that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We may do every year a press. Famous last words. I hate press conference. I will never do a press conference again. But maybe it makes sense to at least make a virtual event that shows progress because the public needs to know, right? I think it is fair to keep them informed. We are being very open with journalists. We got a bazillion interviews, because I think it's fair to have check marks from the public, right?
Sure.
These things are important. We will take it seriously. The privacy question, for example, but the irony is like, the thing that was created to prevent people access to information happens to be better done on the military, which is kind of one of those things like, who will think that, right? Oh. So yeah, no, we'll see. But that's the plan. Yeah, there's a little video there. I think it's 5-minute video. Wonderful. Explains, and the different people, they're very reputed people.
All right.
And
so we'll send folks over there.
Going, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, Javier, thank you for this. It's been extremely thorough, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. Thank you for the call.